Welcome to Southpod, the first and foremost podcast created to tell the true story of tech innovation in the American South. Southpod is hosted by John Yerian and Stanfield Gray and produced by Dig South Tech Media. Dig South Tech Media is the South's tech hub, the place where leading global brands connect with the most scalable startups. Visit us at digsouth.com and follow us on social media at Dig South. This episode of Southpod was recorded for Dig South's Wild Pitch Wednesday. It features Tony Berry and Jordan Berry of Interloop. Now let's dig into Southpod with Tony Berry and Jordan Berry.
Good morning and welcome to Wild Pitch Wednesday, powered by Dig South. I am your host, Stanfield Gray, CEO of Dig South. How's everybody doing? Feeling good out there? Great, let's get into it. Each Wednesday, Dig South features one promising startup and four Dig Nation experts on our virtual show. The startups are selected from companies who will appear at Dig South Tech Summit on July 24th at the Charleston Gilliard Center. Find info and updates at digsouth.techsummit.com. For those of you unfamiliar with us, Dig South is a tech media company that specializes in connecting leading global brands to the South's most scalable startups. Visit us at digsouth.com and the usual social media channels. Wild Pitch Wednesday will be rebroadcast on Dig South's YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. Following the broadcast, Harriet Parker of the Dig team will send out a recap of today's episode with links, special offers, and more, including a special cloud credit deal from our sponsor, Oracle. Guests are invited to sit in on Wild Pitch Wednesday, ask questions, and connect directly with our Dig Nation membership community. If you are a paid member, your Dig Nation profile will remain live for the rest of the year. It's Dig Nation 365 Live. And if you are joining us today as a guest, your profile will remain active for the next 24 hours. You are welcome to join Dig Nation by visiting us at dignation.co. Speaking of that, we are running a Dig Nation virtual membership special. To support your business during these challenging times, we're offering the pro-level Dig Nation membership at a 60% discount, just $19 a month. Join our kick-ass member group of tech professionals, scalable startups, investors, digital marketers, and executives. Now let's get on with the show. In the interest of moving swiftly and keeping us on track, I will let each guest share their name, company, and title as they move into the queue to speak. You can read their bios in the community profiles and find them on LinkedIn and in the recap email. Without further delay, please welcome to Wild Pitch Wednesday from Charleston, South Carolina, Tony and Jordan Berry of Interloop. Good morning, gentlemen. How's it going?
Great. Really appreciate the opportunity today.
Fantastic. I'm going to cue your deck up here. I'm going to turn it over to you to do the pitch and run the show from this point forward.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stanfield. Appreciate it very much. So, Jordan and I are excited to talk to the group today, and we're going to talk about the data-driven future. And really, this idea is your business ready for it? We probably all feel it in this crazy upside-down world that we live in right now, that data is just exploding. And this is just some quick stats on the data that gets generated every 60 seconds. 217 new mobile users, 11 million instant messages, 98,000 tweets, and two that I just saw yesterday that are really pertinent to the world that we live in right now is there used to be about 10 million active chats going on through Slack and Teams and things like that. That's gone up to 200 million at any given time domestically here in the US. So it's just crazy. The amount of data, and they think there's about a 700% increase in meetings like this where we're meeting virtually instead of in person. So the world's been thrown upside down. But what Forbes found, and what's really kind of alarming, is that only 1% of this data they think is being used effectively. And so you have to ask yourself, well, is it worth it? Should I worry about trying to understand data and managing my company based upon that? Well, it's definitely worth it. A study by McKinsey found that companies that manage their business and have a data-driven culture have 23 times higher customer acquisition, and they grow 30% higher and quicker than their competitors, and they're 19 times more likely to be profitable. And this has probably become even more important in the world that we live in right now. We've probably all been watching the governor's briefings and the conversation, and there probably isn't one that's occurred in the last 3 weeks where they haven't talked about now managing this recovery and this new normal that we're going to get to through this idea of being data-driven and making decisions based upon the information that's available. And yet McKinsey found that only a third of the companies today are data should become data-driven, and we should be making decisions based upon that. Why aren't we? Well, the reason we're not is because it's hard. The volume of data, as we just talked about, is expanding. It's scattered everywhere and siloed across departments, and we probably all feel this when we're trying to make decisions. You almost have to decide, well, where am I going to go to get that source of data that will inform me to help me make these good decisions? And usually, because it's in more than one place, you have to integrate it and you have to combine it together. And if any of you have kind of gone through an integration project before where you're trying to get your CRM and your ERP and your marketing and your spreadsheets all to reconcile, it's hard, it's slow, it's expensive. And then you get all done many months later and it's not quite providing you what you need. And so that's really the problem that we sought out when we were looking at really Interloop's mission. And so we started to look at, well, what are the current solutions and why aren't they working if this is such an important thing for companies to do? Well, think about the spreadsheet that we probably all tried to wrangle, where you export data out of your systems, you pull it into various tabs on the spreadsheet, you then go into VLOOKUP craziness, where you try and pull all this data together and then inform the decision. Well, the problem with that is the second you do it, that spreadsheet's stale. It's really hard to share it with others. And again, it's very, very error prone. So spreadsheet wrangling just doesn't inform the business enough, and it really doesn't provide that scaling that you need. And many of us have probably gone through integration type projects where we've tried to integrate our various systems, so our ERP, our CRM, our marketing, et cetera. And so we'll go through a large project, we'll get the systems. A common thing is everybody tries to push stuff into their CRM. And so you'll spend many months on that, and you get into what commonly is known as just API chaos, where things don't pull together very well. They really become something that the data engineers understand how it works, but others in the organization don't. And they tend to actually not be very successful. Plus, they tend to be scheduled through something called a sync process, so it just takes forever to get the data pulled together. And then a few years ago, there was this idea of, well, let's get everything into a consolidated data warehouse or a data lake or a data mart. You'll hear a bunch of common terms about that. And while that is showing some signs of success, you can put business intelligence tools on top of it, it still has some issues. One, it's expensive. The data tends to get very stale because it's, again, coming from the various systems and it's pushed back into this one place, and that takes time. But probably most importantly, it's very, very hard on a data warehouse because you're not connected to your source systems anymore to actually take action and to move forward on the results of the data that you're learning out of that. And so as we sat back and we looked at this problem at Interloop, we knew there had to be a better way, a way of actually accomplishing this goal of becoming data-driven, but not doing it with these kind of outdated and complicated ways. And so we came up with the idea of Interloop. And really what we like to think of is you want to stop integrating and you want to start interlooping. And we'll let Jordan kind of describe what that means. And that's really what Interloop's all about.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, so like Tony mentioned, traditional methods of integration often cause chaos and confusion across an organization. At Interloop, the new way, we use modern techniques like data virtualization and smart caching that allow our customers to access both their structured and unstructured data from a single place. And so this creates a single source of truth across an organization so that everyone can be aligned on what the key drivers and levers of growing their business are. And so at Interloop, what we have is our powerful cloud data platform. So being able to connect and surface this data isn't enough. You've got to be able to put that data to work. And so what we've done is we've created an easy-to-use interface that lets you build powerful applications. We call them loops that allow you to accomplish key processes in your business. So with Interloop, you might be able to create a sales forecasting loop that lets you connect the data in your Salesforce instance with the invoices in your QuickBooks instance. You might be able to create a marketing analysis loop that lets you track marketing content that you store in Box and connect it to the marketing campaigns that you create in Marketo. And you can even do things like creating product feedback loops where you can track incoming product requests that you get through Intercom on your website and then connect them right back into your initiatives in Asana. So really, it's a platform to create applications that allow you to become data-driven and gain insights. And currently, we connect to about 100 different sources out of the box and can create custom connectors as well. But really, the power of Interloop is that you can get actionable insights as easy as a spreadsheet. So essentially, you can have multiple tabs like you would in Excel, but each tab is a live pipe into your systems. So on one tab, you could have Salesforce data, on another QuickBooks, on a third HubSpot, and it's as simple and as easy as Excel. So you can do sorting, filtering, you can create saved lists. We even have formulas that look and feel like VLOOKUPs, but you can do it across systems in real time. And what's really unique about Interloop is like a spreadsheet, you can edit the data and we write it back to the source system. So you can edit Salesforce opportunities right within Interloop and it'll write back without having to jump around tabs in your browser and kind of that data chaos. We realize everyone is at a different place in their data journey. So we're more than technology. We're both technology and services to help you succeed. So we want to be your trusted guide. So if you're looking at just your data strategy and how do you get started, or how do you tackle this with the systems you already have, we're your guides and we're here to help. And finally, if you are interested in getting started, we have written an ebook on the 6 steps to becoming data-driven. This is a technology agnostic guide that just walks through the trials and tribulations we've had working with customers on how to get from raw data to insights. So if you're interested in that, we've actually attached it to this presentation here today, so you can download it or go to our landing page and you can download it there. And with that, just wanted to say thanks. Also want to do a quick shout out to JJ Driscoll and Jessica Majinski, our other team members, which I think are online today. They've done some great work helping us get Interloop up and running. Awesome, we're Interloop and we put your data to work.
So we'd love to have some questions now. So I think Nicholas maybe had one. So
Right. So great. Thank you, Tony and Jordan, for that presentation. If our guest panelists will now unmute their microphones, we will open the question session.
My initial question that I did not catch is just both of your backgrounds briefly. Where did you come from? Where did the idea come from, and why are you here?
Well, as you can probably guess, we're a father-son team. I've tried to joke that we're brothers, but nobody lets me get away with that. But my background, I've been in the sales management and technical consulting for about 30 years now. And through all my various roles, data has always been a challenge. I'm an engineer by training, so I love being immersed in data. And it's just been a challenge my whole career. And so teaming with Jordan, who I know well, and who had the skill to actually solve this technically. I'll let Jordan share his background. But
Absolutely. And then I come more from the technical side. So when we started this journey with Interloop about 4 years ago, we really focused our efforts on sales forecasting and building predictive models. And what we found was that while customers wanted predictive analytics, they just weren't ready a lot of times. And so how could they connect just their basic data so they could get the key KPIs and insights they needed? And so when we started hearing that 4, 5, 6 times, we decided to really focus our efforts on building a data platform that goes beyond just basic analytics.
Thank you. I completely relate to people, the predictive analytics anecdotes. Someone wants it. Once they have it, they either say BS or show me more.
Right. Yeah, we kept getting clients wanting the predictive, wanting to give us terrible, unorganized data, and that's what we could predict. That their predictability is pretty, pretty broad. So we realized there was a bigger problem there.
So awesome presentation. I think this is super important. We could talk about that another time, but I feel like there's a lot of indications in our market right now that sales and marketing is going to become very, very important, even more important than it has been, and R&D budgets might even shrink. So I think this is timely. But it also seems like it's hard to stand out from the noise. There's a lot of big companies. IBM says they do this, SAS, like all kinds of really big companies. They all talk a really good game,
yep.
And I understand that some of those big incumbent players can talk a good game and aren't as nimble or effective. But I was wondering if you had kind of a sense of what your customer acquisition cost is now and how you're like playing that game to stand out amongst some pretty big players in the market.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and our customer acquisition cost is high. This is really at the current state. It's really think more of it as tech-enabled services. While we have a product, there's definitely services associated with it. The good news is we are finding customers are willing to pay for that, and so we're not fighting it. And so essentially, we do come in with a combination of being able to do management level consulting along with the tool has really been our approach. We are primarily a bootstrap company. We've gotten a small amount of funding, but we're very proud of the fact that we're profitable. And so we're really focused in on, the proof is in the pudding. Let's make sure that it isn't talk. We'll roll our sleeves up. We'll work with customers. We have very low attrition. We basically only lost one customer on this platform of the several that we have on it right now. So once we get them on board, we stick. And so we think our model looks a lot like Looker, if you're familiar with them, who had a several $1,000 acquisition costs, only got to 1,700 customers when Google bought them, but customers stuck. And so that's really our model and the way we're following it. So we let the big guys set the vision, and we'll come in and we'll actually execute against it.
Just as a quick follow-up, are you looking to be acquired by one of those guys? I assume it's too early to know kind of what your lifetime value is at this point.
Yeah, LTV is a little tough at the moment, although we are getting at least some anecdotal that the lifetime value is long. They're going to stay for several. The interesting thing, when you get in at the data level, you become very critical to a business. So it's, as long as you do a good job, you will stay for a while. From an exit standpoint, there's probably several. There's a strategic acquisition, clearly, if we play this correctly. Again, because we're profitable, we can keep going as a good middle tier business. Or we could be part of a roll-up of even a management consulting company at some point. So there's lots of options. But right now, we just want to stay profitable, grow, and we figure that will identify itself.
Congrats on being profitable. I love
it. It wasn't 6 months ago. That wasn't the Vogue thing to say, but we're pretty proud of it in this climate. So,
well, the savvy minds will prevail. Profitable business is popular in my book. Good job.
Hi. So tell me more then about how you price. Is it a product that you're offering or a service, consulting contract? Can you talk more about how you structure your contracts with your clients?
Yeah, Jordan, you want to do that and I'll add to it? Or
Yeah, happy to. So it is kind of a combination of services and product. So a lot of times our initial strategy discussion or blueprinting will be a consulting engagement, a fixed fee. But then our software is a subscription. So you would buy, a monthly or annual subscription to the software. And like Tony said, we really want to get people on board of the tool, get them to see value before we start charging them for it. But once they see the value and they're using it, that's really when we can turn on that lever and decide some pricing. We're still working candidly on some of the levers of, is it per user? Is it per data source? With our early customers, we're finding that sometimes the data volume matters, sometimes it doesn't. So candidly, that's one area we're improving, but finding some good things with our customers.
And on the heels of that, so who specifically is your target market? If you had to give me, one or two people that, picture perfect world that you'd love to work with, who would that be?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Sure. So right now, our target market, kind of given where we're at as a company and kind of our recognition, tends to be market companies. So companies that are in the 50 million and up. They have 4 or 5 line of business systems. They've commonly tried to integrate them and had some challenges. And then we're finding an interesting dynamic where they've had some sort of private equity or investment banking investment that's driving them to need data insights quickly. And so that's kind of the current scenario. We think that will move up market as we get more and more traction, where we'll be a lower enterprise, upper mid-market, but it's definitely, mid-sized businesses currently. We haven't found an industry target yet, although that is something candidly we're looking for because we think that would simplify our marketing.
Yeah, I think as a small suggestion, so I work in the alternative data space, and I think this would be really fascinating for teams that are the equities teams, buy-side equities teams, soaking in massive amounts of alternative data spinning it into your proprietary technology to get predictive analytics out of that to then predict the movements or sales cycles or what's going on in the future tense of companies, especially now. I would love to have this at my disposal if I was buying or selling equities. Because if I can predict about future value, that's exactly what I want to do in that scenario. So I think that may be an interesting target market to look into. The second question is, so you're obviously primarily B2B. We just got hit with some terrible economic news today, 4% GDP contraction, 40% up to predicted for Q2. What do you see in the landscape right now in terms of competition, economic downturn? How does that affect your sales and the outlook for your business?
So knock on wood, from a current pipeline sales, it doesn't seem to have slowed anything down for us. So we are seeing, we call it kind of the painting the factory, right? When you're closed down a little bit, sometimes you look at these things that you've wanted to do as you slow down. So we've seen a couple projects actually accelerate, which caught us a little bit by surprise. But what we are seeing that is a little concerning is our top of funnel stats are dropping. So we're not getting new lead volume. We're not getting downloads of the ebook at the volume that it was before. So yeah, I think we're trying to figure that out like everybody right now. So I don't have a great answer for you other than, at least for right now, we're not seeing a direct business impact. Anything people want to get and understand their data better right now.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is you can understand your data really well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're probably a little bit of the cobbler's children, like all companies, but we definitely we do practice what we preach. So.
You remember the old joke where it's you and your buddy are out in the woods and you see the grizzly bear and it's going to charge you and eat you, and your buddy starts tying the shoes tighter. And it's like, well, I don't have to outrun the bear, I just have to outrun you.
That's right.
When we have a big market contraction like we're having now, who knows what it's going to do? Wendy's probably the best person to speak to that. But I feel like when you're helping your partners and clients and the people that you sell to, if you're helping them outrun the bear and they can stay alive because they're a little bit smarter, they get their data a little bit faster, that could be a really good thing to pitch.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good point, because we do think that's our primary differentiator, is that speed to insights. You hit on that. There's a lot of companies that can do this, but we think the uniqueness is the fact that Jordan's figured out how to deliver this up quickly and in a way that it looks and feels a lot like Excel. So it's quick on the uptake too.
So how fast does it need to be to make a meaningful difference in sales? Do you have an idea of that? Like, because obviously it's slower. I have no idea how much slower, because you didn't say that in your presentation. I have no idea how much faster you are. And it says near real time. And I guess there's a burning question is like, could I react? Like the reaction time to actually implement what I learned from the insights is kind of the bottleneck. So like, how fast is an overshot? Do I need near real time insights?
Yeah, Jordan, you want to answer that from a technical standpoint? I can talk about this.
Yeah, kind of two sides. So getting up and running, we found that traditional integration projects can go 6 months to 2 years to get something meaningful for the business. Our goal with every customer is to get them up and running in a couple of weeks. So we come in, understand where their data lives, how do we get it connected, how do we build a report such that you can use it day to day. And then in terms of the near real time data, obviously we want to make things as real time as possible. Sometimes there's technical limitations, but the closest we can get them to having real insight into their business, the better picture they're going to have. We always like to say, if you're driving using only the rear view mirror, you're not going to be driving very well. And so a lot of businesses do that. They use the reports from last quarter, the last 6 months. The closer we can get you to understanding your business today and where you're going to go tomorrow, we see that as our value.
Yeah, probably a good example. We've got a client that's integrating a CRM with a back-end system and then a marketing tool. Used to be it was every night they'd sync those systems up. Now with Interloop, and the near real time is now it's less than 15 seconds to pull a set together of changes, and that's our technology difference. Jordan's come up with a smart caching algorithm that only goes and picks up the changes and pulls them back, and so we're able to then give them a few seconds to get those results, not wait for the overnight job to run. And it's probably should be clear too, we're not trying to be a Tableau or a Power BI. We play real nice with those tools. We're working on that data plumbing and that Excel type interface, and then you can put the pretty charts on top of it with the tools that you've already got. So that's really what we're focusing on. It's that old boring, connect the data and be able to get some insights off of it and let somebody else do the real pretty charts. So.
What is the difference between the sales forecast and the data driven? Are they the same thing?
Great question. Yeah. Our website's a little out of date. So one of the things with right now is because we're busy, we got to get the website updated. But Jordan, you want to take that one in terms of the difference, or?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. And kind of like we mentioned earlier, really focused initially on forecasting and building AI modeling. And what we came to find out is that forecasting has now become one loop in our bigger platform. And so we still have some AI pieces in our tool. Actually, within just a couple clicks, you can build some predictors that you can put on top of your data. So again, trying to empower business users to be able to use the powers that traditionally would take SQL knowledge or something like that. So the more we can make this point and click and enable the business people to take action and read their data, that's really been kind of our focus.
Sorry about that. I would think that companies right now would embrace this. Well, if it's in their technology spend, right now is a good time to be looking at all the sales data while things are slow. People are at home. Right. We're working more efficiently. So we've got the time to look at the data. As soon as we have the ability to be out, or your salespeople have the ability to be out in the marketplace, they're going to need that real-time data. And this is a great time to be building strategies for execution, as John brought up.
Yeah, we're seeing several of our customers right now are starting to do some client segmentation, but in different ways. We got a request last week. Well, who in my database are essential businesses right now? And that's not a normal SIC code pull, right? So you got to go pull that list of these new kind of groupings of SIC codes and then pull them and pair that back. So we're working with a client right now on just a simple, let's get the 50 SIC codes that fit essential businesses and let's lay that on top of your marketing and your CRM. And we think those are the types of things, that's a loop for us. So that's a quick hit that will actually help address a real strategic question is who should I be targeting? Who may be in need of new business right now, which is kind of a great thing to start thinking about.
So piggybacking off of what Wendy said, and I kind of have a bit of a two-part question, but to start it off, presentation was great. Website looks good for now, even though you've got to update it. But I do see a lot of kind of generalized terms like "quote unquote" boost sales, "quote unquote" increase visibility. So in turning generalized into tangible, understandable, what are a few examples of successes with current clients that you can point to and say this actually works by a specific margin?
So we know that's an area we need to get more and more case studies, but a couple good examples is we're working with one client right now that in a space where they need to understand some of their marketing effectiveness. So they'll close a deal, but then they may have what's called leakage against that. So even though I closed a $100,000 deal, I may only get 90 of that as I fulfill because there's some timing components to it. Or ideally, I'm going to get 110, 120. So we're helping them analyze that. So every Monday, they can go into Interloop and see how they're performing against what their original target goal was. And we can kick out for them that, hey, these 3 projects are not tracking to what you said they were going to, and they can immediately take proactive action on it. And we hope very soon we're going to actually have some formal ROI on that. But those are the types of things the near real-time data can provide you. So I don't know if that helps answer that. Or
It does. I think, if you're pitching, depending on what your needs are going forward, if you're pitching to someone who has a blank checkbook, that would be a very helpful metric. That's the first thing I would probably ask for is, where am I getting value and how tangible is that value? Because it's a tough sell whenever you can't point to hard numbers sometimes, the full kind of topic of the conversation. Building off of that, who is the specific end user? Is it me, the analyst? Is it, my boss, the CEO? Is it everyone in between? Are there certain levels? Or is it a one-stop shop? Everyone's got the dashboard. Some person inputs data, some person pulls it out and analyzes it, kind of type deal.
Yes, I'll start, Jordan, maybe you can add in, but we're actually debating that right now, but we think there are actually 3 different user personas that we're going to be targeting. One is the C-level, or if it's a PE firm, it's going to be the owner of the investment, and really the C-level that's trying to get those results. So they're going to be the ultimate person fulfilled. But then there is typically an operations person, whether it's sales, operations, logistics, et cetera, that really owns the implementation of Interloop. And then there is the provider, essentially, if it's a sales rep or somebody that's providing the data into it. So those are kind of the three that we're selling for. So it is a team-based sell, which is why the customer acquisition cost is fairly high. But the good news is you're selling to, because you're selling to a team, and if you can deliver those results clearly, then you can start to get the repeating. And we're seeing some of that with some of our early clients. Well, I want a new loop for this. Can you build that? I want a new loop for this. Eventually, we want to push that ability to build out to, so then we'll have the fourth persona, which will be the builder, but that we're not quite there on the product yet. Jordan, you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, only small thing was just that we also envision this as kind of a partner sell. So we may sell software to partners that implement it for our end customers. So that build knowledge, you still have to have some technical acumen, but at the end of the day, you may have executives and or people providing the data that they use the tool every day.
Okay. I have a few more questions popped up from that, but you did answer it very sufficiently. I appreciate that. So I'll move forward with the other questions.
No, we love it, and it's an area we'd love to do a little bit more persona profiling, and then get our marketing to actually target to that. We joke. So Jordan and I are the CEO, but we're also I'm the business development guy. He's the tech guy and doing some of our marketing, and we wish we could let go of our marketing person and let go of our business development, but they're one and the same. So hopefully we'll be able to hire for that soon.
It all relates when it's early stage. It's all when a development happens, you have to document it, and then you have to figure out if that's something that you want to use in your marketing. And it's a vicious cycle, and it's confusing but worthwhile in the end.
Hence why the website's a little out of sync from the pitch, which is why we're going to be working on that next. So.
Sure.
Well, you guys have what, 4 people? You mentioned there's 2 other people, collaborators.
Correct.
You all have to wear so many hats, and entrepreneurship in so many ways is not about putting all the fires out. It's about deciding which fires to let burn.
That's actually a great. I'll have to write that one down. Remember that.
Yeah. And so I think like Nicholas is hitting on some really, really good stuff. Probably he's a smart guy, probably because he's another App State grad.
Go Nears.
That's right. But I think there was something to that from a pitch standpoint. You did a really good job in your first slide or two, really kind of articulating the enemy. And you say what you did, but there's no, like, not a clear tangible comparison. It's like, I save you this much time. Integration is this much of a headache. It takes 5 people 2 months. It costs you this much if you pay them $80,000 a year, like whatever it is. Like you can start relating some of those soft savings back, even if you don't have ROI on the effectiveness of the actual.
That's a really good point. We'll take that one for sure.
Happy to chat more about that. We do it a lot with our clients and project. But you can talk time, money, all that kind of stuff. You can actually think about hard and soft savings as well. Okay, so there's 4 of you. I don't think you know much about me, and I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Anthroware, which is a creative and technical studios. We build products. That's all we do.
Oh, cool.
I'm one of the co-founders of Hatch, which is an incubator up here in Asheville, North Carolina. So, pretty consistently thinking about this stuff. Business model pressure tests, kind of my jam, and also growing teams, right? So you've got 4 people. And you're bootstrapping, which is awesome. We bootstrapped Anthroware from nothing, and you've got a lot of options when that's the case. Like, you don't necessarily have to raise money if you're able to go get more and scale that way. But you do end up hitting these, when you're bootstrapping, you end up hitting these plateaus, and you have to break through that, and you hit the next one, you break through that. And a lot of times it's people and personnel that, you guys are wearing so many hats right now. It's sometimes hard to see what skill sets you need that will really take you to the next level. So as you grow, you're growing a fairly non-scalable services thing where you have to have more people to make money. That's one side. And then you've got this super scalable technology platform where you can have a small team that can, build the whole thing and skyrocket. What's your growth strategy, and what are the sort of crux skill sets you think will be hardest to find as you grow your business?
Yeah, so Jordan, I'll let you answer from the technology side, because we've had that exact discussion, is how do we start to transition this to less services, more product.
Yeah. Like Tony mentioned, we're kind of modeling ourselves after Looker, which is another analytics tool. And so early on, I know a lot of their growth came from hiring sales engineers, so people that were both client-facing but technical enough to set up and implement the software for the customers. So I think that's a unique skill that we'll definitely need to fill. And then on the technology side, it is just building out the engineering team. We're not a mobile app. We're not a simple SaaS app. This is pretty deep in the weeds and dealing with data. So that certain level of engineer that's willing to take the risk on an early stage startup and join our team. So technically that's
might be a good time to find those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So.
Yeah, it's kind of what we've been wondering is, does the talent pool become a little more approachable for that than it was literally just a month and a half ago?
You mentioned sales first. Is that one of the least predictable, repeatable parts of your business right now?
Is sales least repeatable? It clipped on me a little bit, but that's an area we definitely see a need now to start to systematize. So right now it's a little more ad hoc than we would like. If you looked at our sales process, and this isn't for my background, this is a part I know I want to improve. It's a little seat of the pants, a little less organized than it should be, and so that's another area we want to build. We think we fit the BDR SDR model quite well. Obviously this is a fairly complex problem, so you can do a lot of pre-qualifying before you bring like a sales engineer to it. So it should fit that model well, which again, high customer acquisition costs, that tends to be the way you throttle some of those costs. You don't get into deals where you don't have a good opportunity of winning. And so you try to make sure you're not spending a whole bunch on that effort. So yeah, we definitely want to improve there.
You mentioned that, congratulations on being profitable to date and bootstrapping to date, but how are you thinking about fundraising going forward?
Yeah, that got a little delay. We were getting ready because we're starting to get some good repeatability, and we think some of those early metrics that make sense for kind of that early round. And that was our plan actually right about now to start going out. That's been delayed probably by a quarter. But we definitely think towards the end of the year, a fundraising effort may very well make sense, or at least some form of working capital, but we think that's going to be the best route toward it.
Building off of what Wendy said, and John, I think John made a really good point. I love the fires anecdote. That's a great
really good.
For sure. I will quote you. But Wendy asked, fundraising. John kind of gave some guidance on sales and customer acquisition, figuring things out. What are your current needs right now? Everyone needs sales. Everyone needs runway. But when parsing out 1, 2, 3, bam, bam, bam. What's right in front of you? What's the biggest elephant in the room? And what comes first?
Right now, Jordan doesn't have it on his door, but there was a Kanban board behind him that looks like he took down this morning. We need help on the front end configuration build out on the product. He's got a great roadmap. We just now need a little bit bigger team to execute on it. So, and we have him and JJ working on it right now. So I suspect Jordan could use 1 or 2 more team members to get some of this code finished.
And building up,
it's tactical, but we know that will make a difference right now.
Yeah, and one of the toughest things about that is, and I've been seeing this, Facebook ads and Google ads are ruining a lot of things for me these days. But more and more, kind of these cliches that investors are spoiled. They're very, very spoiled right now. 10 years ago, Uber was barely an iPhone app and got how many millions of dollars. So you have to have a good front end. To get a good front end, you need the developers. To get the developers, you need cash. It's a really messed up 360 that's frustrating to a lot of founders. So understanding that, and given your current capital structure and runway, is it a chicken before the egg issue with you guys, or do you have the sufficient runway to be able to get that done, or you have to start calling favors in or ramping up the raise prior to that? Want to ensure that you guys are focusing on what's more important out of the gate than kind of shifting goals, shifting values.
Yeah, we're from a working capital standpoint, we're okay, but I think it's like what John said. If we want to take that next leap, that's where we're going to have the challenge. If we decide all of a sudden we're going to grow this team to 10 or 11, which we definitely have seats available if we could go to that scale. that's going to take some capital raise, I believe. We aren't generating enough working capital to be able to do that without some sort of infusion. So that's the big challenge, and then when to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah. Building off of that, one company I highly suggest you guys look into specifically for your business model and growth style. This company called Theta Bricks. Back when I was working at the bank, you've heard of them. Yeah, great. I mean, massive, insane, explosive growth. Very similar product. You have to have APIs. You have to have a data team. Get it in. The whole goal is to make sense of the data and create, better outputs from that, more understandable, a lot more simple kind of variables that you can change in between through Excel. But for what you're trying to do, the model kind of seems like it works, and it'd be a really good kind of idea to piggyback off of some of their successes, what they did, what they didn't do. And Data Bricks may be a really good kind of model company for you guys to really pull from as you kind of are in this very interesting position in probably the worst time. I call it some call it the worst. I call it the best. The best companies are came up in the worst times. But great. That might be a good model for you guys to look into.
That's great. No, it's great feedback, and we are aware of them, but haven't dug in on them. But we'll definitely.
Yeah. If you'd like a connection, feel free to reach out. I know their biz dev guy who's now on their CX team. They're great people. The explosive growth, great model for a company.
Great. And I'll share that I've got some gray hair, so I've seen a few of these things before. So the previous recessions and downturns, there was always larger companies that the small companies during that time that came out and became the next Microsoft. So that's our aspirational goal, is to be one of those, not only survivors, but thrivers coming out of this.
They outran the bear.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Great analogy.
We have about 4 minutes left or so. We could take 1 to 2 more questions.
I have just a comment that, one of the things that investors like even more than how snazzy your UI is sales. And you've got sales because you're bootstrapped and you're profitable. So I think when you get to the point where you're raising money, addressing maybe some of the stuff with your deck to make the pain point and your promise a little bit clearer.
I think that's a great idea.
People love sales. You almost don't even, well, I mean, I don't know your business the way you do, but like driving more sales is the main thing that gets investors' attention.
Nothing like customers that are paying bills, right? So,
yeah.
Great. The forecasting that you mentioned, I think, is something that every company grapples with, whether they're good at it or not.
Right.
And I think from that perspective, even marketing to the private equity companies, to go in and with them to look at firms or be an extension of them so that they can evaluate their investments better on the front end, and what technologies do they have and what can you lever might be another source of revenue for you.
That's great.
Yeah. One final note that I want to add, it's not really a question, just another suggestion. Pitch deck, as you're, advertising yourself, marketing the product, and eventually approaching, venture capital, private equity, whatever it may be. 2 things that I always found that went over great in a deck, and if I didn't have them, I either got, reamed afterwards, or there was a huge gap in the conversation post pitch. Was one, background. Always had a background slide. That was I was a young founder, so the first thing people hit me with is, "Who the heck are you?" You guys probably don't have that problem, but it always helps to establish legitimacy. And then an ask slide, whether it was a presentation to an audience that were my consumers, whether it was a pitch to a VC or an investor, I always let them know exactly what I needed and a timeline behind that, and how that person specifically could get involved with my needs. If it was a customer, buy my product. If it was an investment, I need the capital. But what is it for? Why do you need it? And why is that person, someone you're asking? Is it just is it a random meeting because they have money, or is it a targeted person? Letting them know that during the pitch saves hours, days, weeks, sometimes when they're getting pitched 100, 200 times a month. So those are just my 2 suggestions in leaving the conversation.
Those are 2 great final suggestions. Thank you, Nick.
Those are fantastic.
With that in mind, Tony and Jordan, what's the best way for people to reach you today? We'll include your contact information in the recap email, but what would you like to share with the broader audience when we rebroadcast it?
Yeah, so two things. Just we have an email, hi@interloop.ai. So if you want to talk or know somebody that has some data challenges, we'd love to chat. We aren't kidding. We love data and we love data problems. So send them our way. And so that's probably the best way to get us. And then we do have the ebook that Jordan mentioned. Download that, give us some feedback. We're very soon going to have a new website, so we'll reach out and have everybody give us feedback on that. But just hi@interloop.ai.
Great. On behalf of the DIG team today, we are honored to welcome Tony and Jordan Berry of Interloop. They have been fantastic supporters of Dig South for several years, and we always enjoy partnering and collaborating with them. Big thanks to Nick Mancini from Oracle and John Jones of Antroware, Wendy Kopp of Pinemark Capital. They will, we can connect them to anybody who's out there listening today and circle back in a unique number of ways through our Dig Nation member community. So thanks to everyone for joining us on the Dig Show, Wild Pitch Wednesday edition. Wild Pitch Wednesday will be rebroadcast on Dig South's YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. Following the broadcast, Harriet Parker of the Dig team will send out a recap of today's episode with links, special offers, and more. Harriet would like to now share with our audience a special offer from Oracle. So, Harriet, unmute yourself.
You got me unmuted? All right. Well, thanks all. That was awesome. Yeah, Stan, thank you. Thank you, Interloop, and all that joined us today. That was amazing. Before we end the call today, we'd like to give a big shout out to our partner, Oracle, whose mission is to help startups grow and flourish. We are huge fans and have heard nothing but success stories from all of our startups that have worked with them. So if you are a member of Dig Nation, startup of any size, B2B, B2C tech space, looking for mentorship, access to global customers, migration and tech support, this is your opportune time right now, because Oracle for Startups is providing 2,000 free cloud credits to Dig Nation members. So I'm really excited, super excited to follow up with this information and a recap of today. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Harriet. And to support your business during this time, don't forget we are offering the Pro Level Dig Nation membership at a 60% discount. That's $19 a month. You can join our kick-ass member group of tech professionals, scalable startups, investors, digital marketers, and executives. Find details at dignation.co. And get ready for the rebound, people. It's coming soon. This is Daniel Gray of Dig South signing off. Tune in next week for Wild Pitch Wednesday, and then the following week we're going to introduce a new show called Dig Cafe, Coffee Talk with Executives. So more on the way. Stay tuned.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye
Thank
now.
you.